Hi guys, good morning. This is Dan. Welcome to my channel, Engelgeist. For those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning back, welcome back. For those of you that support me over on Patreon, thank you so very much for your subscriptions. I greatly appreciate them. And if you're interested in going over to patreon.com, you can look up Engelgeist, and over there you can get the daily forecast a day early. And there's other readings that are included over there at different subscription levels that you can subscribe to if you'd like. This is for the collective, for the highest good of the greater collective. The date that we're doing this for is June 15th. It's not necessarily set on that date though. What I mean is it's a timeless reading, so this could maybe come up into your feed, or you might be seeing this on a date that's not the 15th. You might just be in alignment with the message, or the message might need to reach you at that point in time. It doesn't necessarily need to be viewed on the 15th, okay? So if you're seeing this on a date and you're hearing like, oh, it's June 15th, I'm turning this shit off. You don't have to. You can still listen to the message and see if it actually applies to your situation. It very well may. Beyond that, if you want to support the channel, you can please hit like on the video. Leave me a comment if you have a question or a comment, something you'd like to see. Please subscribe to the channel or to my business page. Follow the business page. You guys will be notified when I go live if you hit the notification bell, and that way you're notified when I do like live events, card pulls, things like that. All right, so let's see what's going on with this new week that we've begun. You know, I was thinking about it. It's funny to me because we're like repeating a cycle this month. I noticed I write down on my calendar the cards every day just so that I can keep a running track of sort of what energies we're sort of working with, where we've kind of transferred from and into, and that sort of thing. And so last Saturday we got the Fool, right? And this Saturday we also got the Fool. The Saturday previous, which was Saturday the 6th, and then Saturday the 13th, we got the Fool card coming out on both Saturdays. We also got, where is it? At the beginning of the Sunday week, on the 7th, after the Fool, we got 8 of Swords towards the end of the week, right? And then we go through the Fool again, and we get the 8 of Swords on the 14th. So it's like this Fool 8 of Swords scenario that keeps sort of repeating itself. It's interesting to me. It makes me wonder, what areas do we feel as though we're stuck? What areas do we feel as though we can't sort of find a way out, or that we need to find a way out and we're trying to create a new beginning or trying to find that new beginning? It seems to be a theme that keeps kind of refreshing between Saturday and Sunday. So I just want to point that out. I mean, it may stop, but it's odd to me that both cards have shown up back to back on the same days of the week twice in a row. So I just wanted to point that out. I noticed that, and I thought it was kind of an oddity. All right, so let's see, what do we need to know for Monday the 15th? And just, I thought I would point it out too, just so that those of you that are trying to create new beginnings or be brave and take first steps towards something different or new, if you're feeling stuck or trapped or not feeling like you have the freedom to do so just yet, you've got to trust that you do. The 8 of Swords, just so you know, that energy always has an out. There is always a way out, even though it may not feel like it while you're in the moment. You have to trust that you have that knowledge within you. Okay, let's see what card we got today. Interesting, okay. So this is the 2 of Swords. This is indecision and avoidance, okay? So, Coming in with that Eight of Swords energy, it makes sense why we still have this Swords energy coming in. That's the underpinning energy of this day for maybe the next day or two. And this is maybe for some of you. If some of you this doesn't resonate, if you don't feel undecided, or you don't feel like you're avoiding something or having trouble seeing all the facts, that sort of thing, don't worry. You might just be working on something different, and this reading may not pertain to you. It just will pertain to the greater collective of the viewers that happen to come across this video at the time that they do. The Two of Swords is always sort of this idea of, I feel like, the gathering of information. Swords is the element of air, and the intellect, right? So our thoughts, our mind, the realm of the mind. To me, there's a guardedness to this card also, just with the crossing swords. It's usually depicted in traditional tarot with a woman behind the two swords, and she has a blindfold on, which always indicates that idea of not being able to either see all the facts, know all the facts, have all the facts, kind of a little bit operating blindly. With this though, with this card, we don't see that woman. What we do see is we see a lot of clouds. We see this mountain range, right? Which to me speaks, let me pull this closer. And to me, this speaks to sort of challenges ahead, right? The fogginess of the clouds to me speaks to that idea of indecision, right? Or that inability to feel as though we can see. The cross swords to me speaks to this idea of an energy of being a little bit guarded, right? And that's fine, because the guarded to me is sort of maybe protecting ourselves. We might feel a little bit at odds with ourselves mentally in the early part of this week, but that would couple with that Eight of Swords energy pretty normally, if that makes sense. So I don't want you guys getting frustrated with yourselves if you are feeling it like, you know, crossed wires mentally, if you're arguing in your own head about, I should do this, I should do that, if you're being extra self-critical of yourself or others, that would be some of this Two of Swords energy. But what I do want to say about this extra self-critical is that, or even just extra critical in general of situations, people, you know, whatever's coming your way, if you're not like, what's the word, like, if you're not aligning with it properly, right? That's the sort of cross swords to me feel blocked a little bit. And I'm not saying you guys have blocks. I'm saying that you're like in resistance. It's like the energy of resistance. If you're in any resistance to things around you right now, due to unknown factors, say that, and I'm just using this as an example, say that there's a challenge coming up that you can see coming up that would represent in this mountain range, right? And you don't know necessarily how to tackle this challenge. That would represent the clouds. So these swords come into play, and they kind of guard you, to protect you, to balance you, to kind of bring you, help you to feel safer in a situation that maybe feels a little bit, I don't want to say out of control, but like that you feel as though you don't necessarily feel like you have all of the awareness to handle. And that's the avoidance aspect of this card. We see that word avoidance, right? So the situation, whatever it may be for you, you have to apply it to your own life, right? It could be a relationship situation, it could be a work deal, it could be, for all of you, it could be a different thing. So wherever your mind is taking you right now as I'm speaking, that is what we're talking about here. If you're, you know, if somebody's popping into your head, if it's a relative that you're having a struggle with, or it's a boss or a co-worker, then this is where your Two of Swords energy is at. You might feel a little stuck with that Eight of Swords underneath it. I do want to say this, the Eight of Swords has this opportunity of getting herself out of there, right? The Two of Swords does too, but a little bit of information needs to be gathered, a little bit of relaxation, I want to say is a good word, like relaxing around it, accepting the clouds, accepting the mountain range, accepting the challenge, accepting the unknown, and trusting yourself. That's also the two aspect, is like deepening your awareness of your mental self, how you think, where you undermine yourself, becoming knowledgeable of those things and not allowing them to necessarily block you, stop you, scare you. That would be ideal during this time. I also love that they've placed this moon here. And to me, the significance of this moon speaks to the idea of trusting one's intuition over one's intellect. That's kind of how I feel when I'm looking at this card in particular. To me, the intellect seems like it's a little bit more powerful with these crossed swords, and our intuition, although it's coming in at a sliver. right? But I feel like we do have this opportunity here to listen to that sliver and possibly make that sliver of intuition bigger if we challenge ourselves enough to get out from behind our own worrisome thoughts, our own fears, our own insecurities. We can make this intuitive sliver larger and trust it more so that we can make clearer decisions while in situations that maybe don't seem so clear. Okay, does that make sense, guys? And I want to say this, with this Two of Swords underpinned by an Eight of Swords in the early part of this week, don't expect everything to make sense right now, mentally, okay? And that's okay. Remember our grounding stone, I'll show it to you from yesterday. This is the underpinning grounding stone for the week. This is about clarity. So we want to ground in this focus of clarity, right? We want to seek as much clarity as we can find. Now, with this 2 here and that 8, clarity might be a little difficult. That's where I feel like these two swords cross and we bring our information back into ourselves, get into our own intellect and try and get maybe super logical about something. But I feel like that slivered moon is saying you need to bring in the intuition. This situation, like between the mountain range and the clouds, I feel like some of you guys might be facing some stuff that seems really big, like really challenging, really unknown, if that makes sense, right? Where we don't necessarily feel like we have all of the information or the skill set to manage whatever's coming at us or around us, maybe our environment. Maybe for some of you it's, you know, I'm just using this as an example, but what's going on in the world politically, pandemically, all of this sort of stuff. I don't even think pandemically is a word, but you know what I mean? There's all of these sort of weird shifts and changes that are happening just in the world in general. That could be this mountain range and these clouds. And in an effort to feel safer, we sort of turn down our intuition and rely on our intellect and kind of take this position of resistance towards what's going on around us. I don't necessarily feel like this is the smartest stance to take, but it might be something that you have to do so that you can better understand your intellect and where it serves you versus where it doesn't. Now, let's see what the Starseed Oracle has to say. Ooh, I live for this. Okay. Whoa. So this is the blue flame. Spontaneous awakening, activation, integration time. Sorry, you guys, let me just let you read that. We are walking through a door. We are waking up at some level. Now, when I look at this blue flame, it makes me think of Archangel Michael right out of the gate, but the blue flame is like sort of within, it could be our own soul flame. I'm not really familiar with what the blue flame is in relation to the starseeds. I would have to look it up. I will read the definition from the book today for it. But I want to give you my interpretation of stuff as I'm looking at this. Now, when we're building this intuition here, or when we're like pulling this sliver, I almost feel like this is connected to this blue flame. It starts as a flicker and it can burn higher and higher, but we have to intellectually almost get out of our own way. We have to trust. It's okay to protect ourselves, but we don't want to shut ourselves off in such a way that we're in so much resistance that we can't access this blue flame within us. This soul knowledge, this idea of sort of integrating some of the things that are going on around us and being in acceptance of them, even if we don't understand them or feel like we can fully, what's the word? Not, I don't want to say dominate, but what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry guys, I'm drawing a blank. To me, it feels like we may not feel like we can master what's going on around us. It might feel bigger than us, right? But we need to trust this blue flame. This is sort of like, I see it as a small flicker. It's this spontaneous awakening, this activation. Something within us is coming up out of the depths. And I think that our mind is maybe trying to block it a little bit. Just from the standpoint that it's unknown, it feels a little bit unsafe, it's connected to our intuition, or maybe our deeper soul self, and it's coming up out of the tombs, bitch. Like, this doorway says to me that this is a part of us that's like, oh, hello, starseed soul, or angel soul, or just higher self, soul, whatever this blue flame is for you, it is coming out from like, you packed it back in the basement, in the back corner of the basement in a trunk, and it's like, I'm about to set fire to this basement and burn right up through you and show you that you have the knowledge within you, but you're going to have to trust it intuitively. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that creates these clouds and this mountain range, right, where we feel penned in. These things might be the actual opportunities that we need to activate this blue flame within us, to require us to go to this place internally and find this sort of fire within, this purity. This blue aspect of this flame is like there's a purity to this, there's a essence to this. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I want to explain to you about the purity of this flame. It is intrinsically you at such a deep level that it's absolutely beautiful, and it is a blue flame. It's different than, say, a red flame. It's not destructive, it's calm, it's cool, it's peaceful, it's healing, it's certain. These are the energies that come with this blue flame, right? And so I almost feel like although it may be new and not feel completely grounded, this blue flame can be grounded. It's not like the orange flames of, like, say, fire. Why am I seeing these comparisons? It's not like the orange flame that is destructive, right? We see yellow, orange, red flames of fire that like race through and burn everything down. And even in that kind of fire, when things burn down, new life comes behind that, right? So it is a destructive force. Regular orange fire or red fire is a destructive force. But to me, this blue flame is, there's a purity to it. There's a certainty to it. There's a depth to it that we need to learn how to harness and trust. It's not here to hurt us, right? It's similar to like sort of Saint Germain's violet flame that sort of burns off all negative energy. This blue flame is like within us. It's been sort of, I almost want to say, like kept deep within the I don't know if confines is the right word, but deep within ourselves, right? And it's ready to come out. It's ready to sort of, it's like our pilot light in a way. It's what kind of keeps us going, or it's that faint voice. It's the call of our soul, okay? Our mind might be a little resistant to it. That's this two swords, right? That's okay. Our mind just is trying to protect ourselves, right? And with that Eight of Swords underneath energy of all of this, that's where we're feeling a little bit stuck, trapped, worried. Oh shit, what is this? And part of us might be awakening in the midst of all of this. And that awakening could also seem sort of scary. But allow it to happen, allow it to come forward, acknowledge it, and remember that I'm going to go back to that stone of clarity. Just seek clarity as best you can during this time. Try and ground in that clarity. Let me read you Blue Flame just because I want to learn a little bit more about what this means. But that's how I would see, or just from my stream of consciousness, what I think this blue flame represents in this reading. So it says spontaneous awakening, activation, integration time. This is a card of awakening and energetic upgrades. Perhaps you're going through a period of spontaneous awakening, receiving visions or having experiences that are out of the ordinary. In the West, little is known about the process of spontaneous awakening, and it can feel very scary when you're going through it alone. Elsewhere, they can be seen as auspicious experiences, with those going through them being treated with tender care. The blue beings are thought to be activating beings with great potential for healing and upgrading our cellular structures. They appear in moments of extreme awakening, activating a physical kundalini awakening and deep cellular and DNA healing. Many people glamorize the awakening process. However, in reality, it's much messier and more difficult than most of us believe. Hence why we have this Two of Swords energy and this Eight of Swords, guys, is we're trying to process it through our brain, and it may not be quite working. not quite working, but I mean, our brain might be going, wait, what's going on? So let me get back to reading, sorry. We must first let go of what we think we know for sure and how we make sense of the world. And definitely what's going on in the world right now is challenging us in that. So that's the first thing. This isn't easy. The awakening process, even when it's spontaneous, takes a considerable amount of time to integrate, and awakening without integration can leave us feeling ungrounded. If you're not in the midst of an awakening, the process never ends. It says in parentheses, the process never ends. Treat this time as deeply sacred and give yourself ample space to ground and integrate the extreme changes you're going through. Now, here's the gig on this one. For those of you that are watching, I think that everything that's going on in the world is requiring us to awaken whether we realize it or not. That's why it's so challenging right now, everything we're looking at. It's either challenging us in one direction or another. So I think that this is an awakening for those of us that want it. If we want to stick our head in the sand and pretend like it's not going on, we certainly can do so. And postpone the awakening, but I feel like the awakening is going to happen regardless. So, you know, get in, we're going for a ride kind of thing. The Starseed activation is place the card on the portal of your heart and whisper the following: I allow myself to surrender to the awakening process that's right for me. I take things slowly and integrate my experience each and every day. And also, I'm going to say this Two of Swords could also be a little bit of that slower energy, where it says, I take my process slowly and allow myself. There is a protection a little bit to this Two of Swords. It's not necessarily working against us. It might be exactly what our mind needs so that we can move forward in this awakening and in this evolvement, so to speak, that allows us to, you know, turn up this flame, turn up this awareness, and work from this new space. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And integrate this new energy into our space. So here is the grounding stone for today. It is on obsidian, which wards off negativity and is a very grounding stone. Truth. So interesting that this is the one that, I don't think you can really see it because it's so dark, but the word is truth. It's interesting to me that it's the word that follows the clarity, which is the theme for the week. So we're going to want to be grounding in what is our truth right now. And we might be struggling a little bit between our spiritual truth and our mental truth. That might be a little bit of it right now, where we have to integrate these two together and bring them together so that we can feel like a whole, more fully fledged and understood, have a more fully fledged and understood sense of self. But you have to trust this process. It will bring about more clarity, and B, it'll give you the opportunity to continue to ground in this truth, so that you're strong, so that, I mean, this being on obsidian to me speaks to the idea that this truth, whatever this truth is that's within you, which I believe is this sort of blue flame energy that we have happening in here, when we access that from deep within ourselves and we start to feed that flame or build upon that flame and that truth, not only do we access those greater levels of clarity, we feel more self-assured, we're able to ward off negative experiences, energies. They have less of a pull on us, they have less of an effect. We don't bite into the drama, we don't get caught up. I hope that makes sense. That is your forecast for this Monday. I believe that this is a really beautiful day and very transformative. I look forward to hearing about your experiences. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know if this is making sense. I look forward to seeing what's going on for us tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in, and I appreciate you all. All right, so have a great day and stand in your truth. I love you all. Bye-bye.